back with Ryan Callahan, covers recruiting for 24/7 for Go Vols 24/7, and certainly you're our recruiting guru here on the Sports Source. So I want to ask you, I know you had concerns about what's the revenue sharing world going to be for Tennessee. It's a whole new layout. You made up a little ground thanks to NIL. Now the NIL, we don't know what it's going to be. But for right now, could change tomorrow, revenue sharing is here. Tennessee football, they got on a little bit of a heater recently. They're top 15, which is where Tennessee football usually is, regardless of what's going on. Baseball, Tony Vitello's been yanking guys out of the portal, which, then you got the Lady Vols just cranked out a great class. Rick Barnes had a top 5, top 6 class. Seems like the revenue sharing world, pretty good for Tennessee. Are you there at that point? Is that the view at this moment?
So far, so good. I think what you would have to say is, and this is kind of what I thought it would be, nothing's really changed on Tennessee's end. I think it's kind of been business as usual. For a school that's already had money in the NIL world, this is just a transition of how you're paying out the money, essentially. So, and I think a lot of schools also did some kind of prep work to make the transition as smooth as possible this year. That's kind of given some schools more money to spend. The things that have changed are around Tennessee, and that's kind of what we've got to wait and see long term. So the things that I said were kind of negative for Tennessee are more about you've got some schools beneath you that now have money.
Can catch up. Yeah.
You've got the Alabamas and Georgias of the world that have been complaining about this system because it doesn't help them, that other schools can outspend them. Well, now they have the ability to spend a little bit more in some cases, and the playing field is long term maybe going to be leveled even more than it was. So there's some things on both sides that maybe could be bad for Tennessee, but how they're having to approach it, I don't see a lot of change. And that's where we still have to wait and see what this system's going to be long term, because so many schools, it seems like spending's either not going down at all or it's going up still in some cases. And a lot of schools are kind of saying this is unsustainable unless schools are just flat out cheating or finding other ways and getting creative. So what's this going to be long term? Is this a 1-year approach and people are going to have to adjust next year, or what's going to happen? So we don't know long term. I still don't think what this is going to look like.
Yeah, the interesting thing, you had the College Sports Commission come out this week and really hammer the ideas of collectives.
Yep.
And by the end of the week, the House settlement was now being thrown back into question because the people on the other side are like, whoa, 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 whoa. Collectives are a legit business. They can give money anywhere they want. So that thing's not going to last. We said that from the beginning. But you've already seen the first couple of cracks appear. There's starting to be fights over it. Have you got any idea? I mean, again, everybody's having to move into this, but some are doing it slowly. Some are doing it quickly. Some schools like Georgia have disbanded their collectives, and they've instead signed with Learfield, who, man, if there's a company on this planet who knows a way to make a buck off everything, that they are. Ticket sales, we can do your ticket sales. There's everything. Anyway, you got a school like Georgia that's disbanded their collective. You got some others that do that. So what happens if this all goes away? They just go back to reconnect their collective again? I mean, some are moving slow, some are moving fast. Have you got any read on what just look in the SEC? Do we have any read on how the majority of schools are going to handle things?
Yeah, that's the problem.
There's no majority.
There's a variety of approaches to this so far, and I think most schools are kind of still keeping, it seems, their collectives operable. We're hearing about some that are shutting them down, but others are still keeping them up.
Because it's news.
Yeah. So I think you're still seeing more schools that are kind of keeping their collectives involved, and you've got to keep them on the back burner. You may have, they may still be overseeing deals in some cases, and that's where the pushback is. They're saying, well, if there's a legitimate endorsement deal where a collective is making a deal with a guy and he's got to make appearances and do advertisements and stuff, that's legit. Why can he not do that? So I think collectives are going to stay involved a lot of places, and then other places, they're just spending like crazy. We're seeing Texas Tech and some of these other schools that are throwing around a bunch of money, apparently, and people are saying it's unsustainable. So is this a year one thing where they've got more money to spend in year one, and then they're just kind of taking this approach this year and saying we'll figure it out long term, or what?
That's an interesting thing. Texas Tech, everyone went nuts that they signed an offensive lineman for $5 million over 3 years. I'm like, David Sanders got quite a big chunk from Tennessee. I'm not sure why this is huge, but upon further inspection of that deal, it's basically a two-pronged deal. If collectives are not being watchdogged, then you're going to get the $5 million. If they are getting watchdogged and they're closing that down, then it's only going to be worth $2.5 million.
Yep.
So you wonder now, it's like, because it's so uncertain, are schools going to start making deals with players like Texas Tech that says, okay, now, if this system holds, it's worth X. If the system goes away, then it's worth Y, baby.
Right.
So pull for the system to crash. I'm assuming everyone is kind of going to look in that direction and say, "Oh, we can do that."
Yeah, and that's where again we don't know what's going to happen with this long term, because some schools are hoping the system crashes and waiting to pick up the pieces if it happens like that. Other schools are saying, well, this new world benefits us. We're going to lean into that, and so you just got a variety of approaches, and we don't know what this, again, how the spending is going to work beyond year one. I think year one there's more money to spend because of the way some teams have kind of caught up on their NIL expenditures and stuff, and they've got clean books for this year. Next year, if the cap essentially is in place, spending has to go down. So how this is all going to work, I don't think anybody really knows right now.
Absolute mess. All right.